Ki Teitzei is going to be Dash Elul, returning to who you really are. I'm going to be speaking about the battle that you were born to win. Because a lot of times we want life easy. We were raised in a culture where we want Cinderella story, right? Everybody wants Cinderella story. Everybody was raised with Disney movies that kind of changed the real. You gave us a fake news, and most of humanity took it as a yes. And we have a lot of people struggling because of it. Because what you think that you deserve or how life ought to be is in your mind, this is it. And anything a little below that is like, what am I doing? What is this? So today we're going to go deeper into this parsha. I hope everybody knows the basic parts. I'm going to be alluding to certain parts of the parsha in order to bring the deeper meaning. And hopefully through that, you'll actually get to know the parsha. Do listen to your parshiot. It is really important in the summer to listen, to read the parshiot, because in the time of the summer, when it's warmer outside, and we are lighter dressed, and we are on neshamah, our yetzer also is more wild, wants to go to Central Park and just sit there, or other things.
No, you can't.
You need a higher protection. And how you create that protection is by shielding yourself with the Torah. So specifically in the summer months, it's really, really important to listen to read the parsha, specifically now that we're preparing for the high holidays. Also note, there is a tradition, although it's not Sephardic or Ashkenaz, I believe it's Chabad, I don't know if Ashkenaz actually does it, which is to actually read Pirkei Avot in Shabbat. And the reason is we always do it from, we start doing Pirkei Avot from the first Shabbat after the first night of the Seder until Shavuot in order to get ourselves ready to receive the Torah. Then some people read it from Pesach, from Shavuot on to Rosh Hashanah. Two reasons. The first one is to protect yourself, and the second one is to elevate yourself, because what is Pirkei Avot is morals, right? It's kind of cheshbon nefesh almost, right? Am I thinking good? Am I talking good? It's a lot of wisdom. So if you have a few minutes on Shabbat, just read. It doesn't matter if you some calendars, it will tell you chapter 5 of Pirkei Avot, some no, just you could read through it. So 2 little side notes. Also, we have the custom this month to say an extra chapter of Tehillim always before Enkel Elokeinu on Shacharit and after, do you remember what was the chapter number? I think it's 103, no? No, it's... No, it's... we'll look it up. Also, do it twice a day. Also, there is Hasidic mystical reasons why. So if you don't pray Mincha, just do it twice. If you read in the morning, just read it twice. So is the X amount of numbers that you say it. There is another custom for those of you who have ever picked up the Magzor for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you're going to see that has extra Tehillim. So what's the story with that? We say 3 chapters of Tehillim from Rosh Chodesh Elul, 1, 2, 3 on the day 1, 4, 5, 6, and all the way to Rosh Hashanah. We say many more on Rosh Hashanah, and then we finish the whole book on Yom Kippur. So those are just some of the customs that we have during this month, just to bring us up to speed, like where are we spiritually? And if you see, we are creating all these layers of extra spirituality, connection, kedusha, in order to strengthen ourselves. And the reason is because as you approach Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, what we're doing is we're resetting our lives. So as you reset your life, you want to come with a vessel, create a vessel in which all the berachot that Hashem is going to release on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur could actually materialize. Okay? So that was a little side note on the parsha, on Elul. Obviously, it's not inside the parsha, but I just wanted to give you some things that I always keep in mind as the Elul approaches. Okay, so today we're going to be speaking about Parshat Ki Teitzei, and it begins with the words that sounds as though they belong on a battlefield. Ki teitzei lamilchama al oivecha. What does it mean? When you go out to the war against your enemy, right? Now, Hasidut teaches us that the Torah doesn't simply say when you go to war. it says when you go out to war. Why out? Because war is actually something that is foreign to the deepest part of who we are. Our natural state is not our soul, our neshamah level. I'm not talking right now at the Yetzer, but our neshamah level doesn't like war. It likes spirituality, calm, peace, connection to Hashem. So on a deeper level, Hasidut explains that this is describing the journey of the neshamah, which is really interesting. The neshamah begins in a completely different environment. Where is the bank of the souls? It's right next to Kisei HaKavod. It's right next to the bank of the souls that are about to come into this world are sitting right next to Hashem, as I mentioned in one of our prior classes. So the neshamah, the soul, does not originate in a place of conflict. Before entering the physical world, the soul exists in closeness to Hashem. It's basking in the radiant light of Hashem. It's instead of divine consciousness where there is no battle with the evil. It's all pure spirituality and kedusha. It knows where it comes from. It knows where it is. And its natural consciousness is consciousness of elokut, of godliness. Okay? So the words Ki Teitzei milchama can read almost literally on the spiritual level. When the neshamah goes out, it enters the battle. It means that the moment that your neshamah left the throne of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and came down here on planet Earth, is already, instead of flux, on battle, trying to figure itself out. Okay? So we're going to be taking each of the pesukim of different parts of the parsha and just give you a deeper understanding and how is that connected to our month of Elul. Now, then the neshamah is sent out from the state and comes down to this physical world. Now, what happens when the neshamah comes into a physical world? We all know, suddenly the body, this nice body that Hashem gave us, which is supposed to be our ally, now what becomes? Becomes the point of conflict. Because my neshamah wants to remain holy, pray, be connected, and my Yetzer Hara wants to go play, scroll, it's not so interested. So this is where the flux and the war starts between the two. So this Yetzer Hara, there are desires, there's distractions, there's pressure, there's fear, ego, materialism. We have them all. And a lot of times we need to be very aware because what starts as a tiny, tiny thing, it becomes a very big thing. One example is scrolling. A few years ago, I don't know how when scrolling was created, right? We didn't have this problem of scrolling. Nobody was wasting their whole evening. We had lives. We had very good lives. We were spending time with our family. We talked, right? And I remember vividly, it was the year I went to Morocco. So my Avram was 8. So must be 16 years ago, about. That was the very beginning of cell phones. And I remember I went to Morocco and I bought this beautiful dish. And I put it in the middle of my table. And I made a rule in the house that anytime if you want to eat, you have to put your phone over there. If you don't put your phone there, you can fix yourself some supper. Think about 16 years ago, where were we? Now think about 25 years ago when this was not even an issue. Okay, so the neshamah begins in a completely different environment. The neshamah, the soul, does not originate in a place of conflict before entering this world. The physical world, the soul exists, as I said, and is close to Hashem. And it's in this divine state of consciousness where there is no battle, no evil. It knows where it comes from. It knows what it is. Its natural consciousness is to become closer to Hashem, as I just said. So the words Ki Teitzei milchama can be read almost literally on the spiritual level, that when the neshama goes out and enters the battle, the neshama is sent from a state and comes down into this physical world where it meets its match, which is called your body, your Yetzer Hara, that holds your Yetzer Hara, where all this materialism, fear, distractions, is kind of taking you from the mission that you came down to do. So there is a world in which Hashem is not always obvious, right? We don't see Hashem palpable. Some of us have the zechut to see him more. And the more that you look for him, the more you find him. Meaning, a lot of times you feel like, oh my God, Hashem is so detached from my life. And when you start really becoming and learning bitachon and becoming and fine-tuning your glasses, all of a sudden you see things that were prior hidden to you. So then the neshama is suddenly, instead of competition, the neshama has gone out of battle. And now the question becomes even deeper. Why will you, Hashem, do that? Anybody has an answer? But why will the Hashem do that? Why will Hashem create this conflict? Why send the neshama, that is such a holy, such a holy, from such a high spiritual place, into a world that is going to come and struggle? And because there is something that the neshama can accomplish here. That is the real reason. It's a little bit, if I were to simplify, I don't know if anybody here remembers first grade. You remember first grade? How was the first grade? 1 + 1, 2. 1 + 2, 3. And you were drilled on these timetables until you go to second grade. Second grade, that's it, no more plus. Now is minus. And third grade is division and multiplication, right? I still have nightmares from the multiplication timetables one guy.
Oh, yeah. You had to study.
And you had to memorize them.
Yeah.
Okay? But it means that when you graduate first grade and second grade, you're not being tested first grade material. You're only being tested second grade material, and so goes in your life. And then you graduate 12th grade, and then you're like, okay, yeah, gracias a Dios. And then you hit your college, and now you get tested everything from the 12 years plus, right? It means that our default setting is being tested. Things that we're not aware of that. Because we were sold the Cinderella story. So the whole reason why Hashem do this is because he wanted us to accomplish something. And that could never be accomplished by remaining above. And it's like we say, there's this story of a neshamah that Hashem is saying to the neshama, go down, go down. And the neshama is like, no, I'm basking in the light. And then the neshama looks down and is like, absolutely not. I want nothing to do with that. Nothing, nada. And what does Hashem do to this neshama? Hashem comes and he drives the neshama. And he says, 1 second on planet Earth, you could accomplish things that you could never accomplish in a lifetime right here sitting next to me. And with that promise, the neshama now comes down. Now, the purpose is not simply for the neshama to protect itself from the world. Its mission is ultimately to enter this world and to reveal the godliness hidden inside of it. So what is the larger mission? After conquering the evil within ourselves, we didn't come just here to fight with my Yetzer Hara. Only once you conquer that, we don't simply retreat onto our own spiritual life. We don't say, okay, I conquered my Yetzer Hara, now I like to learn Torah. Ciao, girls, I see you moving to India in a mountain. I'll see you next life. It doesn't work that way. The only reason you are hassling with your soul is so you could bring this light that now could impact the rest of the world. So its mission is ultimately to enter the world and reveal the godliness hidden inside of this world. So what is the larger mission? After conquering this evil, is to bring this light outward, bringing divine awareness into more and more areas of life. And ultimately, when you light up and you bring a little light to each corner of the world, all that light, I'm talking right now, spiritual, is going to bring what we call the times of Mashiach. Meaning that we created the vessel for the bracha to come. We created light, 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 light. And when the whole world is lit up, we know that is Mashiach times. Okay? So the descent itself has a purpose. We're sent into a battlefield because there is something here that each of us and only you could accomplish. And that gives us a completely different understanding of struggle. Because now when you struggle, you realize it's not like, oh, where is Hashem? He doesn't care about me, or he forgot. Why do I need to have this? Why do I need to have this? Right? Some people are blessed that they only have 1 nisayon. Some people, you're like, my God, 75 nisayon. You're like, okay, come on, right? How do you wake up in the morning and move on? So when you realize that the struggle is actually the gateway for your fulfillment of the mission of your what neshama came to do in planet Earth, your whole outlook about your struggles is completely different. It empowers you to say, this is just a test. I wonder what Hashem wants from me. So instead of you fighting it, it comes from a place of curiosity. And when you have that curiosity, you could take the same exact situation and flip it around. Okay? Which I said in one of the classes, just to illustrate, a dear friend of mine, she was going through brain surgery. Scary, it was the pandemic. And it was serious, serious, serious. And nobody could go in the hospital. And I remember I said, what can we do for you? And she said, can you just print the cards for 7 mitzvot shel bnei Noach? How many? 1,000. Okay. And all her stay there, she was giving the guy who cleaned the floor, the guy who brought her the food, the guy, the nurse, the one who drew the blood. Her mission was to bring the idea of 7 mitzvot shel. She said, why would Hashem give this to her? The only reason Hashem is giving her a surgery in the middle of the pandemic that she could be by herself and no one else is so she could utilize that time for something productive. So she took the struggle of this nisayon and she completely flipped it. She accomplished what that nisayon came to be in her life. She didn't get afraid because the surgery, because she saw the higher level. So this gives us a completely different understanding of struggle. Struggle is not your identity. A person says, hey, how are you? I'm struggling. You're not supposed to say I'm struggling. What are you saying? You have to say, Baruch Hashem, in my life. I have some issue going on. Who doesn't? Right? Who doesn't? The struggle is where your neshamah has been sent. That place where you struggle. And it's funny, I was speaking to my rabbi just yesterday. I was speaking to him right before the holidays. And I was saying, we make this thing. I always have told you this Elul plan, all the things I wish and forecast for the next year, this. And they said, Rabbi, listen, I have some things in my plan. Come on, it's over 10 years there. Yeah, like I'm ready to pass the page, move on. And sometimes it's not about moving on, it's about who you're becoming, because that test's still on your page. It means that you haven't reached the full potential that nisayon came to bring into your life. Is it simple? No. But when you switch the glasses and you see the purpose, then it is completely different. So there is a tremendous difference. We can be struggling with something and still know that underneath the struggle, there is a neshamah, there's a holy soul, part of Hashem, that is completely connected with Hashem. And this is such an important idea to remember as we enter this month of Elul. So what is happening in this parsha? Before going deeper, let's understand where we are in this parsha. I know we have been telling the story of the parsha. I missed 2 weeks and I feel like I'm almost half lost, right? From the class. So before we going deeper, let's understand where we are in this parsha. Moshe is still speaking to the Jewish people. At the end of his life, they are preparing to enter Eretz Israel, and they begin an entirely different kind of existence. We spoke about in our last class that being in the desert was really great because you were served no laundry, no cooking, no shopping. You just enjoy Torah. You were surrounded by the clouds of glory. Once now you enter to Eretz Israel, it's a little bit, and I gave this example once, that a kid who is in college for 4 years and he has the cash card and, he pays for his breakfast and his lunch and his, right, and he drops it, and all of a sudden he goes out to the world now. He has to go get a job. There's no more cash card from your parents. All of a sudden it's self-made. And that's basically what going into Eretz Israel means. So interestingly, Ki Teitzei is extraordinary as it contains 74 of the Torah's 613 mitzvot. That is a lot of the mitzvot within it. Then the parsha moves rapidly from one subject to another. It begins with the war and the Yefat Toar, the captive woman. A captive woman, what she had to do after. I'm going to leave it open-ended so you girls go read the parsha and see what, and read the Rashi because it's actually really interesting. Then comes the loss concerning inheritance on the firstborn. Then the rebellious son, dignity of the dead, when somebody passes away, what is the loss? Returning a lost object. A lot of times you're like, oh, great, I found a new iPhone. No, you're supposed to find who is actually a mitzvah to return, even something small that you found. Then helping with the fallen animal. If a donkey falls, what you're supposed to be doing, your friend's donkey fell, you're supposed to help. Also, if you're going to take the eggs from a bird, you're supposed to shoo it away and just take the eggs, not in front of it. Building a protective fence around the roof. You're not supposed to, if you build a house, you can't just make a flat roof. There needs to have, in case somebody goes up, God forbid, he shouldn't fall. Forbidden mixtures, meaning both on animals, not mixing two different animals. Also about different vegetation, different fruits, not to mix. Marriage and divorce. Workers and wages, loans, debtors, yibuim and chalitza, which is when somebody, chalitza is when somebody, when somebody's husband passed away, then if he did not have children, they're supposed to marry the sibling in order to bring inheritance to him. And then is honest ways and measures. So now, I just gave you a laundry list of mitzvot and things. And it's interesting because if you look at it, it's hitting pretty much every part of your life, right? We need to know the laws of marriage. Some people need to know the laws of divorce. Some people need to know if agriculture, what they need to do. It's really taking care of all the different aspects of our lives. And then the parsha ends with, remember what Amalek did to you. At first, it almost feels like a collection of unrelated laws, but there is something very important happening here. Think where the Jewish people are going. They are about to enter what? Eretz Israel. What does that mean? They're supposed to enter now real life. It's a little bit like I was just on vacation, right? And I come back and I'm like disoriented, right? It takes time to get back onto the routine of life. That's pretty much in a very different way what happened to the Jewish people once they're leaving the place. Is like they were in a yeshiva for all these years, and now they're entering the real life, and they're like, wait, I was used to my food. I was used to my spirituality. Now it's homemade. So for 40 years, they lived in the desert surrounded by miracles. What did they do? They ate manna. The water came from the Miriam's well. The clouds of glory surrounded them. But think that where the Jewish people are going, they're entering Eretz Israel. They're entering real life. They're going to have now what? Houses. So they need to follow the laws. How do I do my roof? Fields. What am I doing with my crops? Businesses. Can I pay my worker tomorrow, or do I have to pay him at the end of the day? Employees, money, property, marriages, neighbors, conflicts, responsibility. It means it's the whole spectrum of life. And the Torah has to enter all of it. Because Torah, a lot of times people feel like there is Torah and then there is my life. I feel holy in shul and when I'm learning and when I pray, and the rest of my life, not so holy, right? When you're making your dinner, it doesn't feel so holy. That chicken 75 times later, you don't know what to do with it anymore. But when you look at this chicken, it's like, wow, it's a kosher chicken, and I'm going to nourish the body of my family so they could actually go serve Torah. My husband could go to pray tomorrow. All of a sudden, that physical aspect is really a spiritual endeavor. And that is why the parsha can move from a battlefield to a bird's nest, from a roof to an employee's paycheck, and from a marriage to a lost object. Because holiness, meaning Judaism, is meant to exist only in the obvious spiritual moments. It's not only supposed to exist in the spiritual moments. The purpose is to bring Hashem into life itself, in everything you do. And sometimes it's so hard. When things are easy, you're like, of course, Hashem, thank you. You were so kind. But when things are tough, it's not so easy to say, oh, Hashem, thank you. It takes a little bit more work. Then our mission is to transform the reality into a place of divine consciousness. That's your real job, is to bring Hashem in every step of your way. You get Modani, you went to the kitchen, Hashem. Every single moment. Now, my question to you is, can you live this way, yes or no?
Yeah.
Is it easy? Even when things are difficult? But it's not so simple, right? When you see the city going crazy. Yesterday, I went for a walk, and I counted four, how you call this? Hijabs in one block, right? So you think, I'm a Jew, and they look at you like, what are you doing here, right? They know who we are. So are you so godly bound that you're like, okay, Hashem is taking care of it? Not so simple. You have an emotion. You're a human being. You pray, of course. So our mission is to transform reality into a place of divine consciousness and ultimately spreading that consciousness outward into every aspect of our existence. And now the 74 mitzvot begin to make sense. They're showing us where the real spiritual battle takes place. The battlefield is not only out there, the battlefield is every single day of your life. How do you conduct your business? How you choose to speak? How do you treat someone who works for you? How do you, what do you do with your money? Are you really keeping track on a little note on your phone, 10%? Or you're like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna give him about. We can't just do about when it means it's Hashem's money. How do I treat another person? How do I build my home, right? A lot of times there's this idea that when you build a home, you have to leave the wall opposite to the door unfinished. And a lot of people, they're like, what do you mean? The door opposite has to be unfinished. And the reason is because your house, you could build the most beautiful villa, is not complete until Mashiach comes. Means your life is not complete. So it's even teaching you how to deal with your personal life. So this is where holiness is actually built. Meaning that we are not fighting from equal ground. We are above our enemy. Now we can go back to the first pasuk. Anybody knows the first pasuk? Beautiful. I was waiting, Joachim. Ki teitzei lamilchama al oivecha. Al. Usually we translate al oivecha as against our enemies. But al literally means above. So Hasidut reads this verse in a whole different level. When you go out to the battle, know that you are already above your enemy. You are already above your enemy. And this applies in two different ways. It applies with what's happening in this world, but it also applies with your Yetzer. Your enemy, who's your first enemy? Your Yetzer Hara. When you go into battle, Hashem is saying, Al, it's on, you are already above. Your neshamah Elokit is above the desires of your Yetzer Hara. So that doesn't mean that the enemy, the Yetzer Hara, isn't real or powerful. Sometimes it's very powerful. Try to have only positive thoughts. Okay? I want you girls, by next week, tell me, Rahel, I did not have even one negative thought the whole week.
But that's why it says Ki Teitzei, not Ki Teitzeu. It's a personal battle.
So it doesn't mean, beautiful, thank you. So it doesn't mean that the struggle isn't painful. It doesn't mean there won't be days when the Yetzer Hara seems to be winning and you're like, oh, I can't handle this. What it means is that the two sides are not truly equal. You might be in a tag war, but as long as you remember that you're higher, your Yetzer Tov is stronger, then your Yetzer Hara has no take on you. What it means is that the two sides are not truly equal. The deepest part of a Jew, the neshamah, comes from a place the enemy cannot even touch. It's a part of Hashem mamash, right? When Hashem blew the neshamah, he literally took a piece of himself and put it inside of you. So obviously that is much higher than all your desires and your wantings. So what it means is that the two sides are not truly equal. The deepest part of the Jew is the neshamah. It comes from a place that the enemy can never touch. The Torah explains that because of the Jewish soul is rooted in Hashem, can never have an equal claim over it. And therefore the Torah can continue. What does it say? And Hashem your God will deliver your enemy into your hand. It means that even before you said Modeh Ani and left your house, you already won the day. You just have to be in tune with it. This completely changes the way we approach this month of Elul. Because sometimes when we begin making this cheshbon nefesh, an honest accounting of ourselves, what I did this year, what I didn't do, how many times I got upset, how many times I said something I shouldn't, right? You do a cheshbon nefesh, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. What needs to be fixing? We shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that. If I would have handled this, it would be different. Why I'm still struggling with this? Why haven't I changed? And without realizing, our Heshbon Nefesh, our honest spiritual accounting, can turn into defining ourselves by everything that is fixing. So Ki Teitzei tells us something different. He says, no, before you look at the enemy, at your Yetzer, remember who is doing the looking. You're not your weakness or your distraction or the bad habits or the time that you messed up or the time that you lean on the light on Shabbat and turn it off. That's not really who you are. Those things may require work. You don't pretend that you just have a free ride in this world, but they are not the essence of who you are. You know, a lot of times people, you know, somebody just gave me a business card, right? Nice picture. Is that really the person? Nope. Right? You always say, hi, how are you? What's your name? Rachel. Oh, and what do you do? And you're like, okay, you know, I'm a whatever you went to school for. Is that really who you are? There's so many more layers into who you're a neshamah, you're a soul, you're somebody who does kindness, you're somebody who's bringing light into this world, right? That is really the real description of who you are. It's not your letters after your name. So you're a neshamah underneath all of this. So Elul is not, look how terrible I am, or look all the bad things I did this year. Elul is what has gotten in the way of who I really am. What part of me can I really develop to the next level? And that is a whole different cheshbon. It's not looking at myself from a negative prism, but it's seeing all the colors and all the beauty of what I have brought into the world. And how could I bring this coming year a little bit more? So sometimes we fight, sometimes we bring more light. There's another beautiful lesson. The Zohar describes prayer as the time of prayer is the time of battle. Right? I told you guys one time a story that my husband said in one of his shiurim, that there was this man who went to synagogue and he was under his talis and he was really praying very intently. And the rabbi was like, wow, he's really praying so intently. So he goes to his wife and he says, I wish I could pray like this guy. This guy really prays with his whole soul. He says, what do you mean? He says, please give me 2 loaves of bread, and please, I need one carton of eggs, and on and on he goes, literally his list. He says, me, I'm like, oh, Hashem, can you just give me everything I need? But he's like really intertwined. So one day goes by, 2 days go by. The third day, the rabbi is so curious, like, how is he praying with such an intention? He picks under the talit and he sees he's taking the note from his wife, the shopping list. Right? Can you really harness the power of your thoughts while you pray? And the answer is, we wish. It's not simple. And you start with one tiny part of your prayer and concentrate. And that's something that we're doing now. So we're trying to concentrate, we're trying to feel something, we're trying to bring our animal soul into a greater awareness of Hashem. We're trying to say, okay, fine, I'll deal with that in 5 minutes. Right now I'm saying Modeh, or right now I'm saying whatever it might be. Anyone who has tried to daven with concentration knows exactly what this battle looks like. Your body is standing in one place, and suddenly your mind remembers, oh, I didn't take the cleaners, oh, I have to invite so-and-so, oh, can't believe I forgot. And next thing you know, you're ready to add Aleinu. Right? So that is the real battle. That's what the Zohar is Kadosh is saying here in Elul specifically, where we have all these extra prayers. That is not just to say another 2 chapters of Tehillim. It's actually be present while you're saying. Create that vessel, that spiritual place where your bracha could come in. But the Rebbe explains that there is another way of dealing with darkness. Anybody knows which is the other way to deal with darkness?
You mean the pitfalls and
Your negative side? Bring light. If you have a dark room, you can't force negativity, darkness outside. All you have to do is strike a tiny match. And all of a sudden, oh, wow, look all these things that we have over here. You just need to bring light. And how you bring that light? Through Torah. Torah doesn't always engage the darkness by fighting it directly. Torah fills the mind with divine consciousness of Hashem, and the Torah it connects it to the battle of prayer, that with Torah itself connected with this verse describing the Torah. What is the verse? Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. And it's interesting because a lot of times what you hyper-focus on grows, right? If you have a 2-year-old and the kid has a tantrum, and you're like, Papi, don't have a tantrum, he's going to have tantrums until he's 75. Yeah. You exaggerate. The more, whatever you hyper-focus on grows. So in life, it's not about how much you're not concentrated in your davening. It's how much light can you bring. Take a book. There's a great book somewhere called My Prayer. Read one tiny 5 lines every day. You're going to see in a year's time how your prayer is going to be completely transformed. So this is very practical because we spend so much time trying to stop ourselves from doing things. I have to stop thinking negative. I have to stop reacting, strong temper. I have to stop wasting my time scrolling. I have to stop being angry and so on and so. I have to stop worrying. And obviously there are things that we need to stop. But sometimes the better question is not only what do I need to remove, sometimes the better question is what do I need to put in? Because when you're hyper-focused on the negative, guess what you're doing? You're growing negative. But when you're saying, okay, yeah, I have all these issues. I scroll, I'm upset, whatever it was. But I'm going to take every single day and take Shara B'tachon and learn 2 minutes. You're, in essence, transforming your emotional reaction through Shara B'tachon, 2 minutes. So you need to think, may I need a little extra Torah every day? Do I need to pray longer? Do I need to not add so much of the prayer but hyper-focus more? Do I need more mitzvot, more purpose, my conscience of Hashem? Because sometimes you don't defeat darkness by spending your entire life wrestling with it. Sometimes all you need to do is turn on the light. And once there is enough light, naturally darkness goes away. And of course, the negativity and the grip that the Yetzer Hara has on us also goes away. The more light you bring in, the less the Yetzer has a take on you. So we move from here to what has been taken captive. Then the Torah introduces the Yefat Toar, the beautiful woman that was taken captive in war. On the little level, the Torah is regulating a very difficult situation involving a soldier at war that took a beautiful woman. And the Maggid of Maastricht explains a beautiful dimension on this. What does he say? That captives in this line also represent sparks of holiness that are trapped within physicality, our physical reality. Those are captives. They are netzutzot that could be elevated and they're being held together. For example, if you serve yourself a cup of water and you forget to say bracha, there is a spark of godliness captive within it, and you have the choice to release it, yes or no, just by simply saying a beracha before and after. So where in my life can I have or bring about or liberate this idea? So this brings us back to why the neshamah came down here in the first place. The physical world is not simply something we need to survive. There are things that are waiting for us to be elevated. Life is not supposed to be just a battlefield, a hassle. It's where is Hashem taking me now in order to elevate? And in Mer Hashem, there's a story that happened many years ago on Erev Rosh Hashanah that I'm going to add. If anybody's not here on the Bitachon chat from Vanessa, now we have the other one, Einon Milvado, which is going to be recordings. So if you have stories of Hashgacha Parati that happened to you, record them and send them to us, because we would like to open up the eyes of everybody, how you see God in your daily lives. So when
The woman in I saw that she doing all the in Israel. She shouldn't know her miracle. How would Ashkaha be?
because he changes.
She's the other night.
So Vanessa started a new one right before the summer break. But the more you accustom your eyes to see light, the more light you're going to see. The more you accustom your life to see what's struggling in your life, the more you're going to see. So we have to choose AM or FM. Where you want to be? You want to be dancing in one place, or you want to be struggling with the stresses of life? So, and again, it's not easy. So the same physical thing can pull us away from Hashem, or it could be a vehicle to serving Hashem. For example, food. You could eat exactly what you need. You could eat healthy to serve Hashem besimcha, or you could overeat. I just saw an article somewhere that Jewish food is like people are bringing through all these holiday meals. People are basically injuring themselves, right? I literally I saw something, an article. Or food can become a bracha. It could be Shabbat. You could have hospitality. You could have money. Money could be an obsession. Oh, like the person who works 70 hours a week and he has $25 million in the bank. And then he says, you know what? Now I need to work 80 because maybe I could make 30 million. Come on. You have 25 million. Okay, good. Give 2.5 and then let's talk again, right? It cannot become the central theme of your life. A home can simply be a property or something. I made my house beautiful. Or it could also be a place, a Jewish home, where there's mezuzot, where every time you bring in your home one higher level, right? I'm not going to buy magazines, right? You start making the art in my house. I had this art that is not so kosher. Okay, I'm going to elevate it. A talent. Talent could become an ego. Oh, I'm the best doctor. I'm the best professor. Or it could also become your shlichus, what is the purpose in your life? If Hashem gave you a character trait, it's not because, oh, how great. First of all, it's not even yours. Hashem is lending it to you. And second is there so you could make this world, after you live after 180 years, a better place. Technology, you could consume it, you could scroll for the rest of your life, or you could actually put on a shiur while you run in the morning or you do your Costco. So the Maggid of Midrash explains that instead of allowing the physical world to distance us from Hashem, we can elevate the divine sparks contained within this physical world and use the physicality itself for the service of Hashem. So the question is simple, is this thing physical or spiritual? The deeper question is, what am I doing with it? Hashem gave me a phone, what am I doing with it? Hashem gave me a house, what am I doing with it? All the resources that Hashem has given you, they could be left dormant or they could be used for spirituality. Am I elevating or no? And that is the mission that we have in this world. We're not supposed to run away from the world. We're supposed to interconnect with the world, bringing spirituality. And now suddenly the Parshat Ki Teitzei becomes a Parsha about Elul. Now we come to one of the most beautiful connections in the entire Parsha. And this is about the captive woman. A captive woman cannot immediately enter her new life. She needs to do a few things. Anybody would like to give us a few of the things that she has to do, if you remember?
Shave her head,
Mm-hmm.
mourn her parents, and I'll let somebody else.
Something with her nails. Okay, good. That's good enough. Perfect. The Torah describes a process that she has to go through. She changes her physical appearance, she removes her garments of her captivity, and then the Torah says the following line. She should weep for her father and her mother for a full month. And the Arizal connects this full month to this month of Elul. Hasidus is teaching us that this entire process is representing the work we do on ourselves. The head, shaving the head, relates to intellect. You need to upgrade the quality of your thoughts. You cannot upgrade the quantity of the thoughts that come in your mind, but you could, and you have the full freedom to entertain that thought or not entertain that thought. That is totally up to you. You could think bad about somebody, or you saw somebody doing something wrong, you're like, oh, that person was there. But are you holding on to the thought? Yes or no? That's all yours. So that is represented by shaving of the head. The hands and the nails relates to the emotions as they are expressed themselves in action. You do your actions through your hands. So it's about elevating your hands. And the garments that she had to change represents the soul's 3 garments. Anybody knows which are the garments of your soul? Thought, speech, and action. Chabal, Chokhmah, Bin, and Da'at. So it represents you need to upgrade these garments. Think about what happens to us during the year when we are picking up things. The way we're thinking, the way we're speaking, the way we're reacting, our habits, scrolling, whatever it might be. Things we have seen so many times and we don't even notice anymore, right? Which is very interesting because we have become so used to seeing crazy that we don't even realize how much our soul is hurting. Whether it's lack of tzniut, right? Nowadays, just go down the street, you'll see it all. But even, I always said that, I don't know if people remember, after October 7, the class was very intense, obviously. And people were sending videos of October 7. And I said, not in my chat, you cannot put anything negative. Because our soul is so holy, can't get used to seeing crazy. The quality of your thoughts is so important. So things that perhaps were once uncomfortable somehow now became the new normal. We are okay to see things that 10 years ago you will need therapy for the rest of your life, right? Think about it. Who was okay with seeing blood? I couldn't even see blood when they do the blood work, right? All of a sudden it's all over. So Elul tells us to look again. What have I put on that doesn't belong to me? What have I put on? How am I dressing? I'm in the month of Elul. The king is on the field. If the king is on the field, am I going to wear my jogging pants or am I going to dress a little bit like more Shabbostic? Which one is it? If the king is actually in the field, and I'm not only Hashem some nice theory, Hashem is actually more present in this physical world. And the more Kedusha, the more coverage, right? What thoughts have you allowed to occupy your mind? What things are you watching on YouTube? What kind of speech have become normal? All this new slang. I remember my husband was giving a class and he was giving a drasha and he said, OG means original. And everybody was laughing. My God, Rabbi, you know what that means, right? All good. He didn't say anything wrong. But I'm saying how our language, right? And think about Rosh Hashanah and think about Yom Kippur, think especially Yom Kippur, when you're saying the Tachanun, because I said a bad word, you did it like 5 times or 6 times, right? So that should be a reminder for the rest of the year for you not to have to say that actually with Kavana. I'm not saying you should be perfect, but it's an aspiration. So what has the world taught me that perhaps my neshamah never believed? This is the spiritual idea of removing of the garments of captivity. But then comes something even deeper. She cries for her father and her mother. The inner dimension cites in the Chumash explains that the soul's father and mother represents an innate divine consciousness. Abba means Chokhmah, the soul's selflessness in the awareness of Hashem. And Ima means Bina, the development, is the intellectual consciousness of Hashem. In a simple language, the neshamah remembers that I used to know, not simply information, consciousness. There is a part of us that knows Hashem, actually, that knows why we're here, that knows why it matters, your actions. But life becomes loud, and sometimes that knowledge gets buried. So perhaps the crying of Elul is not only I did something wrong, it's something much deeper. I have been living beneath what my neshama knows. I have forgotten, I became distracted, I became used to things that are totally below of my level as a human being on planet Earth, as a Jew who's bringing Kedusha into this world. I have moved away from something that deep inside of me still knows that is true. And that is why the word teshuvah is so beautiful. Because teshuvah does not mean, what does teshuvah mean? It means return. You're not going somewhere else. It's a U-turn. Teshuvah means U-turn. What does it mean? You could only return to a place that you belong, to that pure state of that neshamah that Hashem put in your mother's womb. You have to go back to that place. We aren't crying that a new neshama in Elul. We are uncovering the one neshama that Hashem has given us that is always there. For maybe the first question in Elul isn't who should I become, but what can I remove so I could hear again the whispers of my neshama. It's not me becoming a new age. You're not gonna, like in the non-Jewish world, okay, you come to December 31, New Year, exercise, eating healthy. I'm gonna, wake up early and see the sun everywhere. On January 7, it's over. Judaism is not like that. You don't need to recreate a new age person. You're not competing with a new. You actually just have to go back to the real you, the one that is hiding within all the schmutz and all the craziness that this world has put into it. Now we move from here to build a fence before you fall. And this is, you remember we said that when you build a house, you need to put a fence in the roof. So later the Parsha tells us that when you build a house with an accessible roof, you must build a makeh. Makeh means like a fence, a protective fence around it so nobody will fall, chas v'shalom. So Hasidut takes this practical mitzvah and gives us an important principle for life. What does it say? When you build a new house, can refer to entering a new stage of your life. New house, it means a new stage. And when our life changes, sometimes there are boundaries that protected you yesterday and then they are no longer sufficient for the life that you are now living. And think about yourself, all the things that you put in things when you were 20, all the things that you did. And then you became 25 and those things no longer work. I could give you a personal example. I remember I had kids very close in age, very little. I think I had 3 kids under 2 and then 4 kids under 5, like some interesting numbers. And I'm sure some of you also. And I remember one day, my youngest became 10, and I was frazzled. I go to my husband, I said, Rafael, you don't understand. Every book I read no longer applies. That's it. I'm on a whole different, everything I know that I put into these kids for 15 years is gone. It's finished. I need a whole brand new book. What you do with teenagers. It means that you need to create a new boundary in order to bring about the new you or the new discovery of you. So it means the new stages bring new responsibilities, new pressures, new opportunities, and sometimes new vulnerabilities. Therefore, the Torah says, make a parapet for your roof, means a protective wall or a railing. Create new safeguards. And the Torah then expands this idea further. Building a new house also represents our mission to make this physical world into a home for Hashem. But precisely because we are engaging the physical world, we need new boundaries. New red lines that we do not cross. The new part that I'm doing. So that instead of elevating the world only, we don't allow the world to pull us down. Meaning, when you say to your friend, okay, let's say you have a friend and this friend wants to go to a non-kosher restaurant and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to just eat fish and salad. First of all, I don't know how that's kosher, but okay, I'm not here to explain. But you need to put a fence. What is the lowest level of kashrut that I'm going to keep? That is okay. That I don't go below that line. Because if I don't put that boundary, you're going to be eating anything gratuitous. So it's a self-imposed boundary that we need to put in ourselves. And this is an extraordinary Elul exercise. We need to ask ourselves, where do I need a fence this year? Is it around my phone? No, I have a timer on my Instagram. After 1 hour, it's over. And it tells me, would you like another 5 minutes? Your time for today is over. Would you like another 5 minutes or 15 minutes? So I never press 15 because I know 15 is, that's it, it's 25 hours. So I try very hard to stick to it, right? That is a boundary that I need to put in myself. Or something comes in your feed and you're like, oh, that's so interesting, Mrs. So-and-so. And you're like, oh, I don't need to see that. It's so easy to get lost because everything is out there. And then the more you have available, means that the more you need to be selective. Maybe around what you're watching or how you're speaking or the gossip or how much you're spending. You know, I was in Israel, they don't have Amazon. And I was frazzled. I was like, how do you live without Amazon? What do you mean? You don't have Amazon? I have to go to the store? They're living. I want to tell you something that I saw that it was amazing. I was in Baca. My parent has an apartment in Baca. So every time I go, I could stay in her apartment. And the place that I have in Baca, it has the apartment like this. And in front is there's like a park for children. And so you see in the morning, the moms with the babies. In the middle of the day, the kids that come from school. 5 p.m., you have mincha. 6 p.m., you have right in front of the balcony. They have, how you call this? Tai Chi or Pilates, I don't know. 8 o'clock, the men are doing Arvit. 10 o'clock, the ones who are dating are going out. That's what they do. Yeah, this is what they do. And wherever I went in Israel, family, parents playing. I went in Shabbat on a really nice walk from the Citadel Hotel. People playing, the parents out with the kids. That's what you're doing, no Amazon.com. So maybe our relationships, what type of friends are you choosing to be, what type of classes you're supposed to take, or around your time, how much time are you spending? If you only have 24 hours, and if you spend 8 hours sleeping, you only have 16 hours. And if you only spend, let's say, another 5 hours in eating and taking care of that, you only have 11 hours. And if you walk 8 hours, you only have 4 hours. And if you only have 4 hours a day and you're praying 2 hours, then you only have, count your minutes. Your minutes is your greatest possession. I don't care your house, your dresses, your shoes, your homes, your money, I don't care. Your time is precious every second. So maybe around how much access I give certain things to be in my mind and in my emotions, how many things I allow to take over in my emotions, becoming captive, we just say captive, of the circumstances of people. And the beauty of the mitzvah is that the Torah doesn't say fall off the roof first, injure yourself, and then figure out how to create these fences. It says exactly the opposite. It says build the fence first before you fall. Meaning that a boundary isn't necessarily a punishment. Sometimes a boundary is simply knowing yourself well enough to protect what matters. For example, an alcoholic anonymous is not going to a bar, or a mama or a mom of a child that has ADHD, she's going to get the devices when he's 25, not when he's 3 years old, because then she'll never see him. Or Weight Watchers, you're not going to buy chocolate. It's understanding, it's actually your boundaries, your protection. It's how you allow your neshamah to fulfill the purpose for what it was created. Now, you cannot ignore what someone else has lost. The Torah then gives us the mitzvah of returning the lost object. You remember I said that? If you see something that another Jew has lost, you have to run after him and give it to him. Lo tuchal lehitalem. Correct? Good. My Hebrew's getting better. I have to go with pan. You cannot hide yourself. You cannot pretend you didn't see it and simply walk away from it or take it. The Rebbe takes this mitzvah into a spiritual realm. Sometimes another Jew has lost something much more important than the object itself. Maybe they have lost their connection to Hashem. Maybe they have their knowledge of Torah. Maybe they have lost the spirit and the enthusiasm, or the sense of Jewish identity, or their relationship to the Torah, to their families, or the sense of value of who they are. And the strength, the fact that Hashem walking them today means that he has something to fulfill. He lost. Oh, I don't know why I'm here on planet Earth. So Hasidut says that even when this Jew is not near you, you are obliged to help recover the spiritual treasure that he might have lost through excessive involvement in the material world. So sometimes we have to help until the person themselves begins to recognize the value of what they have lost and they want to come back. Meaning, if you learn one word of Torah, you have to go find someone who doesn't know that word and you have to go teach it to them. That's your job. That's actually probably the most important job you have. And then the next mitzvah strengthens this idea. How? When you see your fellow donkey fall, collapse under a burden, don't just walk away. You have to help him lift him up. And Hasidut interprets this as seeing another Jew who has spiritually fallen. Why did Hashem allow you to see it? And if you remember, I always say that when you hear a negative news, you're supposed to take on to do a small mitzvah, right? Well, I always, and whoever knows me, I say, create a mitzvah fund, do a mitzvah. Why? Because the Torah makes a beautiful point. If Hashem arranged for you to become aware of another person's spiritual descent, then we need to understand that you have been given the ability and the responsibility to help that person. Because otherwise Hashem will have kept it hidden from you. This is so important in Elul because we could become extremely self-focused. I need to do my teshuvah, I need to pray, I need to grow my relationship with Hashem, me, myself and I. But Judaism never allows spirituality to stop with ourselves. Sometimes part of the Elul plan is helping someone else come home and say, where are you falling? Sometimes it's teaching someone or inviting somebody or calling or listening or giving somebody the opportunity to do a mitzvah. And sometimes simply reminding another Jew, you have not lost who you are. Maybe you have just lost touch with yourself, but there is somebody really great inside. Let's discover who that is. So from here, I'm almost finished, by the way. I'm keeping track on my time. Holiness lives in the detail. Now we could understand the 74 mitzvot differently. Ki Teitzei begins with a dramatic battlefield. But very quickly, the Torah brings this battlefield home into ordinary life, right? It spoke about the bird, the roof, the garment, the field, the marriage, the worker, etc. Because ultimately, this is where the spiritual battle really is won. It's in your physical place. It's not about trying to become spiritualized. It's how do I bring spirituality in my physicality? Because not only in the synagogue or Rosh Hashanah or in a class, but on an ordinary day, that's where you're supposed to bring the greatest level of spirituality. And there is a beautiful sequence in the Parsha. The Torah promises blessings for sending away the mother bird, right? So if you're going to take the egg, there's brachot. And it explains that performing that one mitzvah creates the opportunity to create and perform another mitzvah, which is called mitzvah koreret mitzvah, or midah keneged measurement for measurement. You fulfill this first mitzvah, you shoo away the bird, and Hashem blesses you now with a house. And Hashem bless you with a house. Now he gives you another mitzvah, which is you have to create that fence. And now he gave you the fence. Now he's going to give you a vineyard.
Now he's going to give you a long life to
The long life. And then he's going to give you, exactly. So you realize that when you keep in one mitzvah, tiny mitzvah, is the beginning of a ripple effect that has no end. The action that you do, it never goes away. It's going to stay with you forever. So in other words, one mitzvah leads to another. And I think that that's a very important message of Elul, because sometimes we enter this month thinking that we have to reinvent our lives in 30 days. We have 30 days, and now we have less than 30 days. Maybe not. Maybe we need to choose one thing, one mitzvah, one boundary. What part of your life needs an upgrade, and start there. And then allow one mitzvah to lead to another. This is how a life becomes holy, not necessarily through one enormous transformation, but one choice and one action and one thought and one word at a time, until gradually more and more lives of our life, days of our lives, become a place where Hashem can live. And that's basically the real deal when it comes to life. We're always waiting for that moment when right? That moment doesn't exist because our lives are circular. Hashem made it circular, right? And we always spoke about that, about that when somebody passes away, the person goes home and they eat something circular, a bagel, a bean, whatever your traditional egg. And the reason is because we should never get desperate, like, the person is on the bottom, but the bottom of the egg or the bottom of a circle is really the beginning of a higher place. But then don't get too compliant when you're on top, because when you're on top, what does it really mean? That you're coming down. So there is the flux of life that is not supposed to be steady. It's supposed to go up and a little bit down, then a higher up and then a higher up. That's actually the way life's supposed to be. Now, the Parsha ends where it began, with an enemy. And now we arrived at the end of the Parshat Ki Teitzei. After all the 74 mitzvot, the Torah suddenly returns to the war. What does it say? Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you. We began with the enemy, and we end with the enemy. This is not accidental. Hasidut teaches us that when Jews become inspired to rise above the limitations of physical reality, Amalek appears, meaning. It's funny, yesterday I do social media with my niece. She lives in Eretz Israel. We share the same mental chip. We understand. So I do all the content and she does the graphics, because I don't have enough time to do it all. And I love teaching the Parsha through Instagram. It's funny, this Shabbat, I had a girl from Instagram that texted me, I'm going to be in the city, can I come to your house for Shabbat? I never met her. We have been friends on Instagram for I don't know how many years. And she sat next to me on the Shabbat table, and he was like, wow, I have an Instagram friend. And my husband like, how did you find her? I'm like, I don't know how she found me. And she said, you don't understand, I wait every Thursday for your Parsha. This is where I learn Parsha. And yesterday when I was working with my niece, the internet was crashing. We were for an hour and a half reconnecting. And by the end, Rivka said to me, she said, no, Rachel, that I learned from my rabbi, she's going to yeshiva in Israel, that when you want to produce kedusha, Amalek, the Yetzer, will even shut down your Wi-Fi. Will fire your Wi-Fi. So you can't get in. So we began with the enemy and we end with the enemy. And we said that this is not accidental. The Amalek appears when a Jew becomes inspired to rise above the limitations of his physical existence. And what does Amalek try to do? He tries to distract us, discourage us, cool us down. And the antidote that the Torah gives us is what? Zachor. Remember. Amalek doesn't necessarily have to convince you that Hashem doesn't exist. He's not going to do that. He doesn't even necessarily have to convince you not to do the mitzvah. He can do it. Sometimes all Amalek needs is to cool you off from saying or from doing or from being excited to serve Hashem. As my rabbi says in Brooklyn, my rabbi says that it takes 25 people to get one person to put on tefillin or light Shabbat candles or do one mitzvah. But it takes the twist of a nose, of somebody else to destroy what the 25 people do to get this person to do a mitzvah. It's just like, and the whole thing is shut down. So you're excited now. And they said, but I won't last. I'll do the mitzvah tomorrow. But you have tried. Yeah, you have tried before. You're not going to succeed. But you're very busy. You don't have time to do to the Torah class. You're so tired. You didn't sleep last night. For sure, I slept 4 hours last night, girls. I'm here. Right? I'm jet lagged. You're never really going to change. Does this one little mitzvah actually matters if you do it? It doesn't matter. You could do it tomorrow. And the Torah says, no, Zachor, remember. Remember who you are. Remember where you came from. Remember what your neshamah knows, that it came to do something transcendental here. That's what it came to do. Because your living changes the spiritual DNA of this world forever. A person could live 100 years and left 500 years ago, and their impact still felt. Life doesn't end when somebody goes. They're just in a different realm. Their impact is forever. You change through your mitzvot, the spiritual DNA of this world, forever and ever. So you remember who you are, remember where you came from, remember what your neshamah knows, why Hashem sent you here in the first place, that the struggle isn't your identity, and that now we could finally connect the last pasuk of the parsha to the first. At the beginning, Hashem tells us, Al oivecha, you are above your enemy. And in the end, Hashem tells us how not to lose that consciousness. Zachor, remember who you are. So bringing everything back home, I'll just give you an Elul roadmap. So now we can see the entire parsha as a one specific journey. Ki Teitzei meaning that the neshama goes out into the world where there's a struggle. I know my life is going to be a struggle. Thank you so much. My rabbi was saying yesterday, he says, the moment you accept something, then you know that, okay, Hashem, I accepted this challenge. He was sharing a challenge that he has. Like, well, I accept it. I could cry the rest of my life of this challenge. So not only I have the challenge, but now I have my mood on the challenge. Or I could say, okay, Hashem, you gave me this challenge. Thank you so much. Let me move on. Let me see how could I bring Kedusha into this world. Then comes al oivecha, before the battle begins. Hashem tells us that our essence stands above the enemy. It means that if the Yetzer is telling a story, you actually had the tools within yourself to conquer that. Then we enter the physical world and begin recovering the sparks that have become captive. So we have to go out in this world looking for these netzutzot that are there for me, waiting for me. Make your bracha before and after. Say a pasuk of Torah. You see something negative, bring about a positive thought. We look at the garments. We spoke about the garments that she changed. We speak about these garments that we have accumulated, our thoughts, speech, and action. And during the month of Elul, we begin removing what doesn't belong anymore to me. Who is the new person? Who is the new me? What is the new part of me that I'm going to discover? And what those garments no longer fit the person. Like I used to do when I used to teach tzniut in the yeshiva in Brooklyn. I did this whole thing. The girls had to learn curriculum in the school. Then we did once a month an outing. They came here and we did a night out, a craft something. And then in the end of the year, we raffle shopping spree. And when we raffle $200 for each girl, whatever, few raffles. And the kick was that I will take them to the store to buy something new. But there was a trade-off. The trade-off was that they needed to go into their closet and look at something that no longer was befitting. Not fitting, but befitting. Is that skirt too short, or is that top too tight, or whatever it may be? And they had to trade in that for the new me, which was the garments that they were going to take home.
Right.
So we remember our father and our mother, the divine consciousness of our neshamah, that our neshamah knew before life became so noisy that we lost ourselves. We build a fence where we need protection so we don't fall. We help another Jew recover. That's part of our Elul, that they're never lost because they have you. We bring Hashem into the smallest details of our ordinary life. And we understand that we don't necessarily have to transform everything overnight. You know, it's like I'm into this new health thing. So it's like they have the vitamins, they have the exercise, they have drinking, they have walking, they have, and I'm like, okay. And the life coach, the health coach was saying, no, you're only going to start drinking 8 glasses of water. And when that is part of you, we're going to start adding the vitamins. And when that's part of you, we're going to do the walk, right? You can't transform yourself in a day. It's a process. So one mitzvah can lead to another mitzvah, mitzvah go mitzvah. And then Amalek comes and says, none of this is going to last. And the Torah says, Zachor, remember. Maybe this is the deepest message of Elul. Elul is not asking us to manufacture a new identity. It's asking us to remember our real one. And Teshuvah means U-turn, return. Because underneath everything that has happened this year, whether you did right, you did wrong, you failed, you succeeded, it doesn't matter, you have more or you have less, the neshama never stopped being who it is. Maybe it became covered or distracted or exhausted, but it never stopped being the neshama, your guidance, your GPS, that's your neshama. So maybe this Elul, we don't have to ask ourselves, how am I going to become a completely different person? Maybe just ask yourself, what is it covering? What is covering over who already I am? What can I take off? What can I offload? And it's interesting because my mother-in-law, I'll leave you with 2 thoughts. My mother-in-law, my best dream, I said a story one time. I came to her house and I saw in the garbage like her pots and shoes, and I'm like, Ma, you could donate. And she's like, no, scratch for me, scratch for everybody else, that's it. But basura, gone. And she's very quick at getting rid of stuff. And I said, Ma, what is with this? Like, you know, it could be used another 5 times. You know, I'm Latin. In South America, they reuse everything. And she said, Mommy, when you fill your life with things, you don't give a chance for new things to come in. But when you empty your cupboards from the things that you don't need and your closets and everything, you're creating, by just letting go, you're creating a vessel to receive new beracha. And that is such an important thing in the month of Elul. It's not, I'm going to say all the 100, say Tehillim the whole day. I have to work also. But it's what can I offload of myself? What part of darkness? Where can I put a boundary? Who could I become? Where can I create a space where more light could be brought in? Because yes, the Torah tells us that we're going out onto a battle, but we should never confuse the battlefield with our identity. Our neshamah existed before the battle was even created. Our neshamah stands above the battle, like we said. And Hashem sent us, our neshamah, into this world because there is one thing, something here that each of us can do to transform this upcoming year, B'ezrat Hashem, and to win the battle and to be reborn, not as a new person, but as the best version of yourself. And when we do that personally, we create it for our children, for our friends, for our family, even for the world that we live in. When you upgrade yourself in any possible way, you're basically upgrading the quality of this world, one step at a time. I want to take the opportunity now that we're in Elul to wish you all Kativa v'chatima tova. It should be a happy, a healthy, a good year physically, spiritually, financially, psychologically. There should be no more anti-Semitism. People should be able to travel free. Before we were like, where am I traveling? Now it's like, where am I not traveling, right? It's incredible. If you travel to one place. It's a one-way ticket to Eretz Israel. That's your best travel. Merci Hashem. Should be soon in our days. I hope you girls enjoy.